The Goat is back, ranking every NFL starting quarterback from 32 to 1 for the upcoming 2025 season. Let's get started. Quarterbacks 32 up to 25 based on how I think they'll perform this upcoming season. Mason Rudolph of the Steelers comes in at 32. Now, this may not be the Steelers starting quarterback. They could add someone better. In fact, they want to add someone better. They don't want Mason Rudolph to be their starting quarterback. So that says a lot. I thought he struggled a lot last year. Will Levis was brutal. I mean, everyone was ripping him. Then Mason Rudolph comes in, and is this better? It might be worse. So he's going to come in at 32, 31, a rookie, Tyler Shough. I believe he'll start for the Saints. The Saints liked him enough to draft him early. There was some reports that teams had him as their number one quarterback, and the Saints end up with him. Known as a pro-ready guy coming from a pro-style offense in Louisville. He actually has experience in different offensive systems as well, looking at Texas Tech's air raid. So he could actually be, better than expected, a little decent for a rookie quarterback. Kellen Moore liked him enough for him to be his guy. So, and of course, he'll have his hiccups. He'll try to play hero ball. He'll have some turnovers. It's all right. Kenny Pickett coming in at 30. I mean, I like Joe Flacco maybe a little bit better for the Browns. It sounds like Pickett is leading the way as the starter, and they'll simplify things in that offense. They'll run the ball a lot. Who knows? Maybe one of the rookies will start. Justin Fields coming in at 29. I think he'll be a damn good runner like he's always been, maybe even more so this year. The Jets will have, I think they'll plan to run the ball a lot of design runs for Justin Fields. He still really needs to improve as a passer. And in terms of his weapons in the passing game, Garrett Wilson really carries that group. So I'm still not impressed with Justin Fields as a passer. He got replaced by Russell Wilson last year, so that wasn't ideal. So he's going to come in at 29. Russell Wilson at 28. And I know football fans, I think in the comment section we'll have a debate maybe on should Russell Wilson be one spot behind Daniel Jones? Should he be ahead of Daniel Jones? I think the mistake people will make is they'll go Giants Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones Russell Wilson, and they'll compare those, and everyone's going, Russell Wilson's got to play better for the Giants than Daniel Jones did, and I agree with that, but that's not the way you look at it. I think Daniel Jones could play. As long as he starts, it could be Anthony Richardson. I think he could play very well in that Shane Steichen offense with the weapons that the Indianapolis Colts have. I think Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, these guys have a chance to start for the Giants. Jackson Dart, I like his love his upside, actually. And the Giants love him, but the plan all along is and should be for Dart to kind of sit and learn. So I think you bring in Russell Wilson for a reason. I do believe he starts, but he's obviously declining a little bit. He comes at 28. Daniel Jones at 27. I do prefer Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson for the Colts. We'll put the number one overall pick, Cam Ward, at 26. He'll definitely have his turnovers. He'll have his moments where he plays hero ball, and he'll probably have some ugly interceptions, but he's going to have big plays. He's going to put the Titans in position to win football games, even if they don't end up winning. And that's what Cam Ward's done his whole career, is put his team in position to win football games and make them better. So he'll come in at 26, even though he's a rookie. Rookies will play this year. Sam Darnold at 25. There's a lot of tricky guys to rank, but yeah, so obviously he was better than 25 last year on the Vikings, and I guess he didn't end things well. He ended things the old Sam Darnold, It's just which Sam Darnold we're going to get, because before the Vikings, he was, I almost said borderline bad. No, he was bad. It was pretty brutal. And I think 99.9% of the people out there believe that it was more of the Viking system, their weapons, Kevin O'Connell, that, is the reason why Sam Darnold played as well as he did last year. So take him out of that system. Chances are he's not going to play as well. Seahawks are pretty solid. I don't love that they, there's no more DK Metcalf. There's no more Tyler Lockett. Yeah, they had Cooper Kupp. They have JSN, who's an emerging star slot receiver, perhaps. But this offense is going to be run the ball first, open up the play action pass. I don't see Sam Darnold. And the offensive line's pretty brutal as well. And we've seen Sam Darnold under pressure, hasn't been great. So I definitely think, and it really shouldn't be that bold. I definitely think he takes a bit of a step down. Meanwhile, a lot of these quarterbacks we're going to talk about, year 2 guys or year 3 guys, they're looking to play better. They're probably going to play better. Or does Darnold take a step up from where he was last year? So I have him at 25 right now. Quarterbacks 24 up to 17. A lot of these guys on this page right here, very tricky to rank, probably debatable on where they are ranked. J.J. McCarthy at 24. Yes, I have him one spot ahead of Sam Darnold. McCarthy's tricky to rank because we haven't seen him play yet, but again, that Viking system, McCarthy was kind of known as a pro-ready guy, a winner. Now he gets the shot to start with those weapons. Again, Sam Darnold was pretty damn bad before he started for the Vikings. I think chances are he could play pretty well for Minnesota as long as he's healthy. Of course, he'll have some rookie hiccups, even though he's not technically a rookie. But there's a chance, because what's around him, that he ends up better than 24. It's tricky to rank him any higher than the guys ahead of him that are also improving because McCarthy simply just hasn't played yet. Bryce Young at 23, which Bryce Young we going to get? Rookie year was brutal under Dave Canales. Actually a little bit of a slow start, but then, a lot of the same things. But then all of a sudden, down the stretch, he got a lot better. He wasn't super flashy, I guess, in the stats category or winning games at the end. A lot of that was due to the defense. But, yeah, I mean, which Bryce Young do we get? Does he actually continue to grow off where he left off? I don't think we've seen his upside yet or his potential. And that's a good thing, obviously. Can he close out games? Can he be, as flashy as some of these other guys, some of these second-year guys? That's kind of the big questions with him. Which Bryce Young are we going to get? Michael Penix at 22. I mean, part of me wants to rank Penix a lot higher because he has some serious arm talent. I mean, he's up there with the top of the top guys in terms of velocity behind the football. He throws the ball on a damn rope, and he showed that in his small sample size in there. Maybe stats-wise didn't look that great. I thought he played better than the stats showed. Some of his interceptions, maybe 2 of them out of 3 weren't his fault. We definitely need to see more. He has some ridiculous arm talent that says he has some ridiculous upside. Just has to be a little more accurate, a little more consistent, put it all together. He has some good weapons. I have him at 22 right now. Geno Smith at 21. He's an interesting one because people ripped Geno Smith a year ago. I mean, they constantly, every week, every Sunday, ripping Geno Smith. And now the talk on social media is he's underrated. So kind of went from one extreme to another, where people maybe are hyping him a little bit too much right now. I mean, he's an accurate quarterback, would show that throughout most of the games, but at the end of the games, for the most part, in crucial situations, he had a lot of bad turnovers and took him, his team out of position to win. I mean, crucial, brutal situations, he had those turnovers. So that kind of feels like what Geno Smith is. Like, he's a guy that has arm talent. He's pretty accurate. Can he be a little more accurate when it matters most? But he's going to have those turnovers. He's going to throw a lot of interceptions. So that's kind of what he is. And now you take him away from that Seahawks offense that had, DK Metcalf, JSN, Tyler Lockett, and now his best guys are Jacoby Myers and Jack Bech. And they have a good running game, though, the Raiders. Well, they should. So that is quite the difference here. So this is where I feel Geno Smith falls. Can he finish games better? Can he cut down on the crucial, the brutal turnovers? Ranking the second-year guys, we already ranked a few of them. Bo Nix comes in at 20, and he played better than Caleb Williams and Drake May last year, right? These guys they only played 1 year. I don't want to base everything off the rookie year. You still kind of got to factor in the pre-draft evaluations on these guys and their upside. Drake May and Caleb Williams have the tremendous upside. Bo Nix really impressed last year, very impressive. How will he be will he be when teams start to kind of game plan for him? That's kind of something you ask yourself with all these all these young quarterbacks. But yeah, a lot of checkdowns, but I mean, some of the games down the stretch, he showed he can get the ball downfield. I do think, look at the playoff game, a couple big games down the stretch as well, though I thought teams started to game plan for him a little, more properly. So what are we going to get from Bo Nix? Is he kind of going to go back to what everyone thought he was going to be, or is he going to continue to feed off how he played, which was a very impressive, from last year? Trevor Lawrence at 19, Trevor Lawrence has the arm talent. He has it in him, and now he's got Liam Cohen. He's got, Brian Thomas Jr. again and Travis Hunter. So part of me wants to rank Trevor Lawrence a lot higher. I've been ranking Trevor Lawrence going into years a lot higher because I know the talent that he has deep down inside. He's shown flashes. I mean, he had a year 2 years ago, the receivers were just dropping balls left and right, and some of those were just elite throws from Trevor Lawrence, throws that a lot of guys can't make. He has that in him, but I mean, you get to a certain point where you got to stop making excuses. He has some bad moments. There's some questions. How bad does he want it? But I could see him taking that major step up. He just got to put it together. He's got to be more consistent. When he played last year, he's underwhelming. You do factor in how many games will he play. You start to wonder how healthy will he be. But again, because of the coach, Liam Cohen, what he did with Baker, him being a quarterback guy and the weapons, I could totally see Trevor Lawrence finishing as like a borderline top 10 quarterback. So he's tricky. And a couple second-year guys that I'm kind of banking on them, being as good as they can be, right? And they could be better than this even, but I think this is a generous, high enough rank coming off, we're going into year 2, what they did last year, and Drake May had the flashes, and you guys know I'm a big Drake May coming out of North Carolina. But even as a big Drake May guy, I was saying he's not going to be that, that big-time quarterback year 1, year 2, maybe not even year 3. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I think he takes that next step up, and I still think if we look 5 to 10 years from now, he could actually end up being the best quarterback from that draft class. That is the upside I see in Drake May. And you bring in Mike Vrabel, obviously, and Josh McDaniels, guys that know what they're doing, and you improve the weapons, and the schedule looks pretty easy for the most part. He can finish much better than people expect. So I have high hopes for Drake May. Mainly long-term, but taking a step up this year. They improved what's around him, but it still isn't the best supporting cast compared to other situations, I suppose. Caleb Williams at 17. Now, he didn't finish here. He finished much lower than this spot last year, but new coaching staff, under Ben Johnson. He has weapons. We think they improved. We'd like to think they improved the offensive line, and they really should have on paper, and it should translate to the field. You would have to think he takes that next step up. Now, he's got to get the ball quicker. He's still probably going to take some bad sacks. That's not going to completely go away, but it all should improve. Him as his processor needs to and should improve this year. So, and the debate with the 2 high upside guys from that last year's draft class, Caleb Williams and Drake May. I actually like, they're both insane upside. I actually like Drake May's upside a little bit better, but Caleb Williams should be a little further along than Drake May and a better supporting cast. And then, having Ben Johnson, that kind of gave the slight edge to me for Caleb Williams. But I could see Drake May again, like 5 years from now, being, and he could be a boomer bust guy, but I could see him being in the conversation of elite NFL quarterback, 5 years from now. So I do think very highly of him. So those are the main year 2 quarterbacks that we're keeping an eye on, because we know the crazy potential that they have, even though they were underwhelming, but they had the big-time flashes at times. And Drake May, I don't know if you really could say underwhelming last year, because he got thrown into a shit situation, and I thought he definitely had impressive moments. So those are quarterbacks 24 through 17. 16 up to 9, you start to see the top 10 quarterbacks. Kyler Murray comes in at 16, and man, it's just all about him being more consistent, because he's been very inconsistent so far. I mean, he has flashes. He has moments where he looks like an MVP candidate, like that good, typically early in games, it seems. And you just don't always get that. You see him kind of shutting down, which results in the Cardinals offense shutting down. We see at the end of games, him, kind of having some mistakes here and there in crucial moments, but he has those flashes, just has to put it together and be more consistent. But the inconsistencies have him below some of the other guys that are in his tier, that are in his category. But he could take a step up this year. Jordan Love at 15. A little underwhelming last year, in big moments. I thought he could have done a better job taking care of the football, and I expected him to take more of a step up last year. But there could be a legitimate excuse. He got hurt week 1, and when he finally came, well, I shouldn't say finally, he came back kind of early. When he came back, you could definitely see he wasn't 100%. Now, was that a thing throughout the whole year? Did it disrupt his growth? You can make a strong case that that's a legitimate excuse. So if he plays the year fully healthy, doesn't start week 1 with an injury, maybe we get the guy, because I was expecting him to end up as a top 10 quarterback last year. I thought he'd play that good, like number 9, number 10, range. And he didn't, but maybe he gets there this year. So he's a guy I could see us ranking higher as the season goes on. Brock Purdy at 14, another guy you wish he could be a little more consistent, but he has those flashes, still young, still getting better. There was all this worry, or maybe worry is not the right word, but all this thought, all this talk about Brock Purdy's future contract during the year, even before last year, during the year. And then the Niners season was a disaster. Guys getting hurt left and right, them losing games that they're supposed to win. A lot of it was, maybe not even because of Brock Purdy's special teams at times. And it was just felt like a disaster. And, what do they have to play for at the end of the year? And Purdy's kind of looking for, I'm not really saying that he took it easy because he's looking forward to that contract, but yeah, he's a guy that because remember he ended a couple years ago, ended with an injury in the NFC Championship game. And I think there's a lot of things in the back of his mind, in the back of the 49ers mind, and they had, a lack of talent out there around Brock Purdy. So part of me thinks he could be much better than 14 even. take that big step up this year. So we'll see. CJ Stroud at 13, a little underwhelming last year, even though he played fairly well. He looked like a monster in his rookie season. So maybe it was a little bit of a sophomore slump and gets back on track this year. It's definitely a possibility. The weapons are starting to come together. You still worry about the offensive line, but the receiver unit looks legit. They added a couple from Iowa State throughout the draft, obviously, the Cyclones' top receivers in Higgins and Knoll. And they had Christian Kirk, a legit slot receiver, and they obviously have one of the best in football, Nico Collins. So, I mean, that helps C.J. Stroud. He could be a little more consistent in tight window throws, over the middle of the field, along the sideline. I want to see more challenging throws from him. Yes, he can drop the ball in the breadbasket. He's very accurate. He can throw the ball downfield. It's just when things aren't going right, can he step up and make big-time throws? That's something we really didn't see last year. The offensive line definitely played a part in that, though. Dak Prescott, 12, and I need Dak Prescott to stay healthy for him to be a top 12 quarterback, obviously. And Prescott gets ripped a lot because, he's either injured or maybe he doesn't play nearly his best in those big games, in the playoffs or against just better teams, better defenses. So that's where he needs to step up, stay healthy and play better in the bigger games. But we can't forget that he's super talented. I mean, this is a very productive, talented quarterback. He can make every throw on the field, every level of the field, and the Cowboys are much better, with their star quarterback and Dak Prescott. So I got him in the top 12. I know we'll probably have some people disagreeing because there's not a lot of people that like Dak, it seems. I don't know. Number 11, Tua Tagovailoa. If I can trust Tua to stay healthy, he would easily be, he would be number 9. I think he'd be locked in at number 9 for me. I actually think it showed even more last year while Tua was out and then right when he came back, how good he actually is. Because, every team's better with their starting quarterback, right? If the starting quarterback's out injured, it should be a significant drop off for them. But, man, when he was out, we know how bad the Dolphins were. They were borderline one of the worst, maybe the worst team in football. But the star receivers that they have looked borderline dysfunctional. I mean, that might be a little of an exaggeration, but they were not even close. Like, there are some other star receivers that look as good with other quarterbacks, not these guys. So it just kind of showed you how important, how badly they need Tua Tagovailoa and his skill set, his talent. So if he was consistent with staying healthy, he'd be a top 10 quarterback for me just based off the talent alone. Jared Goff at 10. He's been playing like a top 10 quarterback, been very impressive. I know the last game in the playoffs wasn't great for him with the turnovers, but he was still pretty damn productive. He could still put his team in position to win games or help, be the reason they win games, even though he has talent around him. But just consistently been a top 10 quarterback. I think he's at the point where he's, used to that. He's going to be consistent. He's pretty polished. I guess the thing is we're all waiting for without Ben Johnson. Is he as good? Maybe not. Maybe he's a little bit better than number 10, last year, but this is where he falls for me right now. And then Baker Mayfield comes in at number 9. Just kind of feels a little weird ranking Baker Mayfield top 10. Think about that a couple years ago. Somebody ranking him in the top 10 would have been insane, but that's where he's at right now. A big step up last year. I know he lost Liam Cohen, but remember losing Dave Canales was a huge thing as well, and he's a guy that could be the reason the Buccaneers win football games. He can be clutch at the end of games. He can win with his arm or his legs. He can survive pressure. Just a big-time playmaker. I thought he took a massive step up as a passer last year. And the Buccaneers have weapons around him. I mean, he's got it made there. So there's no reason why he shouldn't play like a top 10 quarterback this year. The top 8 quarterbacks, and the top 8 happen to be in a league of their own. Like, none of these guys are even considered outside of the top 8. Like, these are the top 8 guys. Now, some of you might order it a little differently, but I think at the bottom, I think you look at a couple of those guys, you can kind of flip some of them. Jalen Hurts, the argument for him to be higher than 8 is he's a winner, and he shows up in big moments, and he's not going to cost his team. He's gonna be able to win football games in different ways with his arms and with his legs. Obviously, one of the better running quarterbacks, just won a Super Bowl. And that plays a big part of it, winning football games. But you have to factor in all around arm talent, all around talent as a passer. And I do think the 7 ahead of him all have him beat in that category. So that could be the slight edge, but championship winning quarterback. He's a winner. He's a winner. So he's most definitely top 8. And Jaden Daniels at number 7. And the question in the back of our minds that we're all asking ourselves is Yeah, is there a sophomore slump? Does he actually keep it up? Remember Cliff Kingsbury with Kyler Murray? They were elite. Kyler Murray looked like an elite, MVP caliber quarterback, and that went downhill as the game plan started to come out. So there's always a more, a more proper, a better game plan for quarterbacks. There's always is. The great ones find a way to adjust, and they're just too talented for the game plan to work. So I'm confident with Jayden Daniels and his poise, his confidence, his talent, his progression, his upside. Him being a dual threat type guy, but a pass first guy. All those reasons, I think he'll be able to overcome any adjustments that will be made for younger quarterbacks here. So maybe avoid what happened with Kingsbury and Kyler Murray there, even though Kyler Murray's still a very solid quarterback, so don't get me wrong there. But that's kind of all eyes on Jayden Daniels. Can he keep this up? Because it was ridiculous. The arm talent first, that's what I love. First, then a runner. Coming out of LSU, we knew the talent he had. We knew he had arm talent, the ability to drop the ball in a bucket, ability to throw the ball downfield, ability to escape pressure, ability to run. His big issue was he would drop his eyes and look underneath and look to start scrambling, start running quite often. And that is typically an issue that is a little challenging to fix. It's really his one and only, durability concerns were kind of up there too. But one and only issue on the field, and we saw it the first few weeks for the Washington Commanders and Jayden Daniels, like the same problems were happening, even though he played decent and had flashy plays. But then all of a sudden something clicked, and he just stopped doing that. Like he completely fixed it. Credit to himself, the Commanders as well. And he fixed really his one problem, and that really showed the elite traits that he has. And he showed it until the end, even in the playoffs, ability to win football games in the win playoff games. So high hopes for Jayden Daniels here. Got him as a top 7 quarterback. Justin Herbert, yes. Justin Herbert, you want to win bigger games. You want to win playoff games, but he can win football games. He's proven that, and this is just straight up a extremely talented quarterback. There was a lot of drops that weren't his fault in that playoff game as well, but he did make some mistakes that he would like back, but this is a quarterback that has a lot of talent, and I think it kind of goes unnoticed lately just because he can't win the playoff games. But I think it's going to be a big year for him. They finally kind of upgraded the talent around him in terms, the running backs got better too, but look at the receiver position, should be even better this year. Offensive line's looking pretty good. Year 2 for a really good coaching staff. So I still think very highly of Justin Herbert. I think it's a guy that I could see him going from, not winning a playoff game to just 1 year, maybe this year winning multiple playoff games where people maybe aren't expecting that, but the talent is there and he showed it, but I think he's ready to show even more. Matthew Stafford at number 5. I know, everyone's kind of waiting for him to decline or maybe he gets injured again, but this could be the smartest quarterback in the league, and he still has all the arm talent, just all the skill, all the talent in general. He's still playing at an extremely, extremely high level. I think the last couple years, I think he's played way better than what his stats show, and there's nothing really wrong with the stats, but just watching him the last 2 years, that's kind of my takeaway. Watching almost every snap of him and then looking at the stats, I'm like, he made way more of an impact. He played way better, and the stats are good as it is. So it's a guy that you definitely can't base things off of that, though. Still got it. And got Devontae Adams added in the mix there. Hopefully the offensive line healthier than it was earlier last year. Hopefully Stafford stays healthy himself. But to me, he's locked in at number 5 after those 4 elite quarterbacks. And then Joe Burrow comes at number 4. You could argue that Joe Burrow, just purely off passing ability, could be the best in football. Elite accuracy, elite touch, timing, and very underrated with maneuvering in the pocket. Very, very underrated in that category. And he put his team in position to win a lot more football games. He's a guy that I'm very close to ranking number 2. So ranking 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 is very, very tough. It's just hard not to rank the 2 last MVP winners and the 2 MVP candidates from last year. It would be hard to rank one of them at 4. And I did pick Josh Allen to win MVP last year. He did that. And there was a big debate with Lamar and Josh Allen, especially if you look at Lamar's numbers and just in general how he played. But I thought I agreed with Josh Allen getting the MVP. I agree, just because I thought Josh Allen was a little more responsible for wins a little more often than Lamar, but I guess that's debatable as well. But I'm going to go Josh Allen 3, still playing at an elite level. I think the top 4 are elite quarterbacks, still playing at an elite level. Still elite running quarterback, elite passing quarterback. For me, I look at what Lamar did last year, and I know Josh Allen was arguably better. He won the MVP, and I'm not going to argue against him, winning the MVP. I thought that was the right call, perhaps, but again, you can argue either way. But what Lamar did last year has me more hyped about his future compared to any other of these veteran, or great or elite quarterbacks, because he really, really took a step up as a passer, and I just don't think people talk about that enough. And he's already an elite scrambler, runner, but the way he stepped up as a passer, and I feel like the weapons could be even better this year. Zay Flowers continue to improve, and they had DeAndre Hopkins in the mix. Rashad Bateman was continuing to improve. I think he's actually ahead of Hopkins. Definitely should be. Likely getting ready to step up more. I think Mark Andrews, even though he let them down, he still can play. And there's some talk about them trading him. I don't think they do it. But so it's kind of scary to think. Like, Lamar took a big step up as a passer last year. What the hell is coming next? So I think he could win another MVP this upcoming year. And Patrick Mahomes probably didn't play as well as he could. He definitely didn't play as well as he could play last year. So you could argue Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow ahead of Patrick Mahomes at 1. It's just very difficult to do. And I look at Patrick Mahomes, bad taste in his mouth, what happened last year. I think he could step it up a bit this year. And, Rashee Rice was supposed to be his top weapon, gets injured. He's coming back. Xavier Worthy, young guy, could take another step up. There's a lot of those guys on that roster that you got Rice coming back, and you got guys that could just take a step up. Hollywood Brown, it was all disrupted with him having an injury last year. They add Jalen Royals. I don't know how much of a factor he'll be right away, but my point is those weapons should be better. But if it seems like, Kelsey declining a little bit, does that hurt Patrick Mahomes? But they have other tight ends that could step up as well. I think Kelsey will play good enough. Offensive line, where will that be at? They add Josh Simmons. I love that draft pick. They also, signed Jalen Moore as well, so we'll see who plays there. They're going to slide somebody inside the left guard. No Joe Thuney, though. So left tackle position gets better. Left guard kind of gets worse. I could see the offense line being worse early in the year than it was at the end of last year, which wasn't good. But then all of a sudden get better than what it was, as a little bit of time goes on. So offensive line would be a big question because Mahomes straight up was bad in the Super Bowl. And I know offensive line was bad, and that played a big factor, but it didn't mean he had to play the way he played. So he did make one insane throw that, down the stretch when the game was already over. But yeah, we want to base things off the Super Bowl. He's going to be fine. He's going to play at a high level. To me, in general, he's still the number one quarterback in football, so it's just hard to rank him outside of number 1. But again, Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Burrow are guys that are elite to me, and you can flip them at any given time. I think the legs of Jackson and Allen and them being the MVP candidates or winners last couple years kind of keep them and winning more than Joe Burrow. All that kind of keeps them ahead of Joe Burrow. But in terms of pure arm talent, Josh Allen's up there with the arm strength. I think just all around arm talent, the Burrow could be number 1 in that category. So think very highly of all these guys. But those are rankings 8 through 1. I went ahead and asked our ex-subscribers to pick 10 of the best quarterbacks in football in their opinion for the 2025 season. So they had a lot of different options, and you kind of see some of the votes here. I thought this was pretty cool to see. So Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert, everyone was in agreement that voted that are their for sure top 10 quarterbacks. So not really a surprise there. It ends with Justin Herbert. And then guys that, 90% of the people, you see Stafford, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts. So 90% said these are top 10 quarterbacks for the upcoming year. And then you see Baker and CJ Stroud coming in next. And yeah, Stroud's a tricky one because does he get back? Because I thought for sure he'd be a top 10 quarterback his second year after the first year because he was incredible for his rookie season, and I thought he was a little limited on what he could do. Part of it due to the offensive line, but with crucial throws, tougher throws, but could definitely finish as a top 10 quarterback this year. And then we have Jared Goff and Jordan Love kind of in the same category. 40% said top 10 quarterback. We had a vote for Dak Prescott, which, production-wise has clearly been a top 10 quarterback when he's healthy most years, so he definitely could be there. No votes for Tua. Again, if Tua could stay fully healthy, I think we would all be saying he's a top 10 quarterback, but that's my opinion, I suppose. Brock Purdy, kind of skipped over Brock Purdy there, 3 votes. So yeah, he's kind of in the category of Jordan Love, CJ Stroud. He's kind of in the same tier is those guys. In my opinion, it seems to be so here. And then Trevor Lawrence got a vote. And that's really not a surprise to me because, again, if Trevor Lawrence stays healthy and, with Liam Cohen and Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, with the talent we know, with the skills even if people don't like Trevor Lawrence, deep down the skill that he has, right? And so if he can fully stay consistent, healthy, and show that, which is definitely a possibility, again, he could be borderline top 10 quarterback. And I think some of the second-year guys like Caleb Williams, Drake May, I think it's a little early to say they're top 10. Just Drake May, who was more of a raw guy. But those guys, they have like the same crazy talent that Trevor Lawrence has or is supposed to have. Could they be in that conversation? So those are the only guys that got top 10 votes. I'm surprised we didn't get more people voting. We have more X subscribers than that. So I'm going to do this video and this exercise. Maybe there's a better way to do this. Any suggestions in the comments with how we can get. I had people just check off their top 10 quarterbacks with a list of all of them. But I'll do this for other position groups throughout this offseason. Maybe running backs next. Not the next video, but coming up somewhat soon. So a lot of fun here. Love doing this stuff, getting prepared for the 2025 season. We have a lot of trade type videos coming out, more preview videos. So even though it's kind of the quietest time of the year, it's still exciting stuff here, a lot to talk about. So hopefully you can join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.